Hi friends, it's Abby. This is part two of some writing from my daughter. I've read it through a couple of times, hoping I won't stumble too bad this third time. It takes almost 14 minutes for me to read it. It's 5.5 pages. So I do hope you have time to listen. If I read too slow, you can speed it up. This is for a Psych Class 2301 from May 11th, 2015, so it's more than 10 years ago. She titled it Cocooned and Hatched, A Life Reborn. I originally took a psychology course because it was the better choice of electives needed to complete an associate's degree. I ended up really enjoying the class and I learned a lot about myself and my past. Before I started college, I had several years strictly revolving around myself. I was very selfish and self-destructive. I was addicted to H, or just about any other opiate I could get my hands on. Opiates are most commonly known for their medical use as extreme painkillers. H is the illegal street version of its prescribed counterpart. Throughout Psychology 2301, I learned terminology and took a glance into possible reasons why I behaved in the manner I did and always maintained a healthy lifestyle. Not only was I physically dependent to a substance which would make me withdraw painfully without the drug coursing through my bloodstream, but I was also psychologically dependent to opiates. I felt happy when I was high and I didn't need to deal with everyday stressors. I simply wanted drugs to make my life more pleasant. My addiction was very strong and a hard habit to break without relapsing. Opiates depress the central nervous system and use endorphins, natural opiates, to overstimulate neurotransmitted synapses. Without the use of the drug, these synapses become understimulated and induce the beginning stages of withdrawal. When withdrawal symptoms arose, such as cold sweats, muscle spasms, and cramps, nausea, and insomnia, the higher chance of relapse, which entailed using a drug again after attempting to quit previously. Researching the principles of classical conditioning has led to discovering the processes that are fundamental to the patterns of drug abuse and relapse. Classical conditioning is a learning process in which a specific neutral stimulus that doesn't normally elicit a response gets linked with the stimulus that does. A conditioned stimulus such as people, places, and drug paraphernalia involved in drug use are believed to be environmental cues that have been paired repeatedly with drug use, which renders a crucial responsibility in relapse. For an individual who is experiencing addiction and seems to have broken free from it, oftentimes still relapses. So for addicts, the cues associated with drug use develop powerful motivational appeal. That motivation is an energized influence to behave, think, and feel a particular way about using a drug for pleasure or need. For me, it began as a motivation to feel good and have fun, but upon becoming physically dependent to opiates, I needed the drug to sustain a normal attitude and physical condition without becoming ill and withdrawing. A biological pattern of behavior that is learned is considered instinct, which is set in motion by a assigned stimulus. Something in the environment, possibly an introduction of drugs, can turn on a fixed pattern of behavior. In my case, I have a drug addiction history in my family. An evolutionary approach of instinct emphasizes the passing of the specific gene relevant to behaviors. Although I am slightly considering my later drug use to be an instinct, it is slightly learned over time, which ultimately just ties back to classical conditioning. It took me a long time to build up the courage to even attempt overcoming my addiction. I was scared beyond belief of getting sick and confronting my inner demons that I self-medicated to conceal. I knew I would have to learn new ways to cope with everyday tasks and the emotions that went along with them. The most important key factor that has helped me take my first steps to recovery was my supportive family and friends that surrounded me with care, love, and most of all, constant encouragement. The easiest way to portray my evolution to living a healthy life can be described through the stages of change model. My problems were not going to be fixed overnight. There was a tremendous amount of physical and psychological healing ahead of me. I was addicted to opiates for roughly 5 to 6 years. It began with using prescription pain pills and escalated to the use of H intravenously. In those first couple of years when I was abusing only pain pills by taking them orally, I was experiencing the pre-contemplation stage of change. I felt in control of my actions and I was just having fun. Since I naively thought I was not harming anyone around me, I did not believe my behavior needed to cease. As cliche as it may sound, I felt I could quit at any given time without repercussion. I simply did not want to. I did not realize I was already mentally and physically addicted and denied the need for change in my life. I was not genuinely considering a different lifestyle. When I thought my actions were not causing any harm to those around me, I was seeing the world through rose-colored glasses. My behavior was hurting those I loved the most. I've been told the term functioning addict is misleading, but I've always considered myself capable of fulfilling my duties as an employed adult who paid my bills and cared for those around me. I use drugs as relaxation period after getting off work, much like someone having a glass of wine after a long day. Mine just so happened to be illegal and much more dangerous and mind-altering in the doses I consumed. In reality, I only cared about myself and justified every single one of my actions. It was very evident to non-users that I was not okay. I began to be confronted by my loved ones that I may have a deeper, more complex issue than I may have previously thought. Because of the strong ties I have with my family, I took this as a serious warning and proceeded with caution and began contemplation stage of change. This was the longest, most strenuous stage of change for me. I went back and forth with the pros and cons about either decision. Getting healthy and never looking back, or continue the lifestyle that had been working for me for years, but unhealthy in the long run and would ultimately kill me. Again, fear came to mind when contemplating any future situation I may encounter without my trusted sidekick, drugs. I really thought that since I was able to hold down a job, had my own apartment, had other successful side jobs, had many friends, and felt on the surface that I was happy, there was no reason for me to make any alterations. I've always considered myself to be a strong, independent person. I began to realize I was a weak person, dependent on a chemical to merely exist and coast through life. I was meant to lead a more successful, meaningful, and productive lifestyle. I was mentally preparing myself to endure the tribulations that were to present themselves if I were to go through with getting clean and sober. I started to run through my head more times than I could the scenarios to implement. What would be the easiest, the hardest, the most important? I began to gain a stronger confidence to see myself through the troubles I had gotten myself into. Preparation/determination stage of change was taking full effect. I truly felt like I was ready to change and it was necessary to fulfill my life's purpose. The most important step I took was to inform my closest relatives and friends about my future endeavors to gather the most support through the hardships I was going to experience. I needed to make myself accountable for what I wanted to accomplish, and the more people that knew, the harder it would be for me to find excuses to fail. For the first time, I was excited about the idea of being drug-free, and I could not wait to live a normal life, completely free of a chemical dictating my every move. Finally, I was ready to take action. I was pumped and 100% committed to making the change needed to change my life for myself and those around me. The best way I knew how was to take it day by day. I could not dwell on the many days to come that I would continue to be sick. I just told myself I could get through it and I would be the best person I was capable of being after completion. I'm a strong-willed person, whether it be for good or bad purposes. I was ready to turn the tables and let it work to my advantage for once. The action/willpower stage of change was in full swing. I never did give myself that last hurrah, like some tend to call it. I didn't binge the last day before I was going to quit. I felt if I was going to do it, I needed to do it now and take the first step of actually disposing of the drugs right away rather than through my body. For the first time in my life, I flushed drugs down the toilet. It was the most relieving, yet the most terrifying feeling I had ever experienced. I was looking forward to the day where I could enjoy an activity as simple as going to the movies without worrying about where my drugs were, how would I sneak off to do them, or who would notice I was high. After the first few weeks of feeling like I was dying, I was beginning to feel freedom. I could wake up in the morning and experience what I could only imagine felt like being a normal human being. I ate breakfast, not swallowed pills or stuck a needle in my arm. I felt free. The brief description of this stage seems to sugarcoat the awful circumstances I went through, but I am stronger for it and will never, ever go back to that way of life. I need to keep myself busy and focus on new healthy behaviors. That is when the maintenance stage of change was formulating. Growing up, I played a lot of sports and I really enjoyed running. My mom and I would go running just about every day for fun and as an activity we could do together that we both enjoyed. The exercise was just a benefit. I started to realize myself slipping back into healthier habits that I took part in during my youth. Exercise became a coping mechanism for me, and I was getting stronger physically and psychologically. Honestly, the maintenance stage was the easiest. I am happier than I have ever been that I can recall as an adult. I enjoy waking up and facing the day and get excited about new experiences to come. The biggest milestone thus far, however, has been enrolling in college. I was a high school dropout and received my GED in 2010. I am 26, so I was a bit apprehensive about picking up studying habits so late in the game, but I was confident about my intellectual level and proceeded with my plans. I am now completing my first year at Collin College with a 4.0 GPA, and I am a member of the Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society. I am very proud of myself. All of these accomplishments solidify that I have made the best possible life choices for myself, whether it be late in the game or not. Everything happens for a reason, and I am living my life to the fullest, every moment I possibly can. Psychology 2301 has helped me realize some reasons as to why I made poor choices in my past, but justifies my most recent actions to correct them, and it has helped in guiding me on any future tasks I commit to take on. This course has been very valuable to me, and I enjoyed it tremendously, more than I anticipated. Since I have had such a rough past, if I gain nothing else out of the course, maintaining the lifestyle I am living now is the most important to me, and I feel I have been provided more tools to continue to do so. Okay, I got it read. It wasn't perfect. It was the best I could do. And I felt such a heaviness in my chest, like it was hard to get enough air to read the next sentence. So if I looked like I was struggling, I was just a little bit. Those of you that made it through that, I appreciate you being here very, very much. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.